Since 1980, the cost of consumer goods has risen an average of 120%, but college tuition has risen by a whopping 260%. With budget cuts, teacher firings, and a large budget deficit at UMass Boston, many students and professors don't believe the university should be paying for athletics. This is often because some people do not understand the difficulty of the student-athlete lifestyle, or may not be aware of what athletics gives back to the local and academic community.
For us, the hope is we are instilling an accountability in our student athletes that they might not otherwise have as a student at the school that is not involved in intercollegiate athletics. So for us as a program, we're big believers that the same people who are exhibiting character traits that are going to make them successful off the field are really the same character traits that we look for when we're recruiting student athletes in the hopes they'll be successful on the field as well. I think right off the bat, the obvious one is time management. We expect a lot more of student athletes' time than perhaps another student might be experiencing. And so for that, guys, time management is something that's incredibly important. And also, I think an even broader piece of that is the sacrifices we ask student athletes to make, in particular, the types of the decisions they're making off the field. So, accountability and rules and things that non-student athletes might not have on a day-to-day basis. If one of our student athletes is at a party, there's decisions that he has to make that maybe another student at a university or one of his peers isn't necessarily held to the same standards by a team and by a coach and by a program. And so for us, I think the challenge of making those decisions, all year long, I think is something that is difficult for student athletes. Sure. So I think for us, the Division III level, obviously not having athletic scholarships, and beyond that, not really having an opportunity, especially in our sport, for guys to pursue a professional career beyond UMass Boston in lacrosse. I think the obvious one right off the bat is the recruitment and retention of students. We as coaches are really out there on the front lines of recruiting people to UMass Boston, telling people the UMass Boston story. We probably talk to 1,500 or 2,000 people in every class that we are telling people what UMass Boston is all about, and ultimately recruiting 12 to 15 people a year in our sport that are coming to UMass Boston that might not otherwise know about UMass Boston and might not otherwise have the opportunity to come here. So I think the recruiting and kind of the revenue that can bring is obviously something that's critically important. Obviously, for us, revenue goes beyond things like ticket sales, goes beyond concessions, goes beyond jersey sales, the things you hear about at big-time Division I programs. It's things like the tuition dollars that might not otherwise come into play if a university doesn't have athletics. I think in addition to that, I think it really affords an opportunity for a university to have a broader footprint. People who are involved in athletics, even if they aren't necessarily planning to compete at the college level, I think being a part of an athletic department really adds to campus culture, campus activity, and kind of pride in that school.
That's a good question. I think different institutions will fund them at different levels. I've been at a couple different Division IIIs with vastly different budgets, and I think a lot of it depends on the importance that it is to that institution. Even in my 14 years here at UMass Boston, our budgets have really changed quite a bit from when I started. When I started, all the coaches were part-time, with exception of a few. Now all the coaches are pretty much full-time. The budgets were very, very small for recruiting and equipment and all those kinds of things, and now those have really increased, and also our assistant coaching budgets have gone way up from where they used to be. So I think it's an institutional choice, kind of how much they want to invest in that. But I think if you're getting a lot of real positive press, athletics is the front door to the institution. We have our own website. There's a lot of things that people can talk about at meetings across campus. Hey, did you see the lacrosse team in the championship game? Did you see baseball won this? Did you see the hockey team at Frozen Fenway? Those are things that I think bring a lot of cross-campus pride and are good talking points on top of the academic accomplishments that the universities kind of typically speak of. They're willing to also invest because I think the numbers show that student athletes do better than your typical student academically. The numbers support that, especially at the Division III level. So I think when you can show people that, hey, we're not here on full athletic scholarships, but they're doing better than your average student, I think it's impressive because of all those kind of traits we talked about.
Sure. So those same skills that make you a successful student athlete, things like accountability, things like having a high character, work ethic, those types of things that make you successful as a student athlete certainly translate into the working world. I believe that we are instilling leadership skills into our student athletes that they might not otherwise have the opportunity to have. Especially in a team sport like lacrosse, there's dynamics of working with others that you might not always experience, in the classroom, and I think that sets people up for success really beyond here. As a Division III program, my goal first and foremost is putting our athletes in a position to be successful beyond college, and giving them the tools they need to do that. And so, I think, the characteristics that make a guy, again, a successful lacrosse player are the same characteristics that'll make them, successful, whatever it is their profession, they choose.
When schools fund athletics, they provide many young adults with opportunities they may not otherwise have, and an environment for them that will elevate themselves academically and allow them to be outstanding ambassadors for their school.